South Africa has a wasteman problem. I'm not talking about waste removers, like refuse removers, although many communities have a waste removal problem with rubbish piling up on the streets. And ironically, refuse removal is one of the service delivery failures caused by the wastemen. Here's the thing. Our national government heads and the most famous politicians in South Africa get most of our attention, right? Which makes sense. But unfortunately, that means very few of us South Africans know how and why things actually fall apart in government. Because the truth is, it's wastemen in government departments that waste money and derail crucial projects, and it's wastemen in local government who let our neighborhoods crumble. The vast majority of these wastemen deployees are from the ANC. And usually these absolute wastes of politicians and political deployees are the reason why your rubbish wasn't removed on time, your lights are out in your streets, your water cuts off, your streets have more potholes than a teenage boy with acne's face, your community pool is closed, and your dad has high blood pressure. Although usually, to be fair, your dad's high blood pressure is also because of Man United. We, the people, really need to understand what is going wrong in local governments and government departments so that we can start forcing out the wastemen that are camping in government jobs and degrading our country. We need to know how it all works so we can know who exactly is at fault by name and pressure their bosses to get them out. And for that, we may actually need a whole new kind of citizen activism, one that you can do with just the internet and maybe a few minutes or hours of your week, of your time. But before we get there, we need to understand the wasteman problem. It affects national, provincial, and local governments. It affects state-owned enterprises. To quote the Lion King, it goes everywhere the government touches. Full of wastemen, Simba. So let's start with municipalities. They're supposed to deliver their communities basic services in a sustainable manner and promote a safe, healthy environment and promote economic and social development with the taxpayer-funded budgets that they're awarded each year. At the end of every financial year, municipalities are audited to check that they have spent their budgets correctly. A clean audit means your books are in order. In the last financial year that we have comprehensive data for, which is 2022-2023, 34 municipalities in South Africa got clean audits. You don't know how good that is yet because you don't know how many municipalities we have. 34 clean municipalities out of 257. That is wild. Only 13% of the municipalities in the whole country got a thumbs up from the Auditor General. 20 of those municipalities are in the Western Cape. KZN and the Eastern Cape got 4 each. Northern Cape only got 3. Mpumalanga had 2. Gauteng got 1 clean audit municipality. And the Northwest, Limpopo, and Free State all got 0. Not one single clean municipality in any of those 3 provinces. Free State, guys, has more Thabo Besters than they have clean audit municipalities. 1-0. That's what they tell us anyway. Because you remember last time they told us that they had him, but they didn't? This time they're saying they really have him. So we believe them, I guess. We really have them. And the Western Cape is propping up the country's stats here. If you remove the Western Cape, as that group of Narcotics Anonymous people known as the Cape Independence Party is trying to do, South Africa would have just 14 clean audit municipalities out of 227, which is 6% only. So what's going on? They call it irregular expenditure, which is like a cute PR name for at least dodgy spending, more likely illegal stealing from and defrauding the municipal budget. Calling this work irregular expenditure is like calling drugs irregular medication. That's basically what it is. And the irregular expenditure in the municipalities is unbelievable. I'm going to start with the Western Cape. Western Cape municipalities had 590 million rand of irregular expenditure in 2022-2023. It's R500 million, guys. That's a lot, right? It's a lot? Wrong. The Western Cape had the least irregular expenditure in the country that year. Only the Western Cape and Northern Cape were under R1 billion. Northern Cape has only 8 people, so that makes sense. But everyone else, over R1 billion, far over. Northwest, 3.45 billion. Eastern Cape, 5.18 billion. Gauteng, 5.66 billion. KZN, 5.91 billion irregularly spent. The total irregular expenditure for South Africa that year from municipalities came to 27.59 billion rand. Now, people, I know numbers suck, and I've given you a lot of numbers right now, but these numbers are important to understand all the money that should be maintaining our neighborhoods that is disappearing and going to waste. In Gauteng that year, 4.35 billion rand was spent without authorization, and 2.3 billion was spent fruitlessly and wastefully, meaning that money did no demonstrable good. And I just want to be sure you know, this is separate from irregular expenditure. This is new categories now. Other provinces had similarly shocking numbers. Free State's unauthorized expenditure was worse than Gauteng's on a smaller budget. Every province had an over 1 billion rand unauthorized expenditure except the Western Cape. And credit has to be given, credit where it's due, to the Democratic Alliance leading municipalities in the Western Cape. Everywhere else was dire. In 2022-2023, municipalities wasted 7.41 billion rand and spent 24.12 billion rand without authorization. Honestly. Although I'm sure you've noticed most of this is dishonestly, like that's the whole point of what is happening here. There is a clear link between bad audit municipalities and failing service delivery, and you can see why. All of this means less money for delivering basic services, less money for creating a safe, healthy environment in communities, less money for social and economic development in communities. It means there are vacancies in critical, high-skill roles in government departments. It means infrastructure crumbles, and there are huge backlogs in maintenance of that infrastructure. It means municipal debt rises and needs to be paid instead of working on what they need to do that year. And outrageously, it means that sometimes allocated budgets don't even get spent on what they're supposed to be spent on because the municipalities don't have the workforces or political will to get the work done, and they send the money back. It just doesn't get spent. And all of this means crumbling communities and sometimes disaster because of all of these waste men. Would you like a few examples? Probably not. Deal with it. eThekwini municipality is in danger of losing over 800 million rand in unspent grants meant to develop transport and townships. They're just going to give back 800 million because they haven't figured out how to spend it yet. In Mfuleni, sewage and water infrastructure fell apart, and for years, sewage has been flowing out of broken pipes down streets, into people's houses and into the Vaal River. Over the 5 years when the infrastructure was collapsing, Mfuleni local municipality forfeited an infrastructure grant worth 640 million rand back to the National Treasury that they could have been spending on crucial infrastructure. And sometimes people lose their lives. In Tshwane, in Hammanskraal, people died in 2023 from deteriorating water management infrastructure that made them sick. That water problem in Hammanskraal was identified in 2011. 12 years later, people died. So how can this happen? It's Wasteman politics in overwhelmingly ANC areas. These politicians are only interested in gaining power for themselves and their parties. They're constantly jockeying for power in their own parties and in local councils rather than serving their communities. They're not trying to provide services or implement policy. They're trying to be king. Municipalities with coalition rulers are particularly bad at providing for their residents because every time a coalition collapses, a new rulership comes in, takes over local government departments, which means new department heads, new visions, new priorities, instability and delays in work, and so on. Depending on how you count it, Joburg has had at least 7 coalitions in 7 years and 10 mayors, if you count Mpopalatse twice. There have been more mayors of Joburg in the last 10 years than winners of Big Brother Mzansi, guys. That instability has been a disaster for this city. We all see it. And all of this applies to provincial governments too. They also have tons of waste men, tons of fruitless and wasteful and unauthorized expenditure, and tons of the same problems with hollowed out departments, skills shortages, and derailed projects. The Gauteng Department of Human Settlements spent 520 million rand on feasibility studies for housing projects that had been cancelled. Wasteman, R500 million on a cancelled housing project. Wasteman politics is happening in places with majorities too. In 2016, in ANC majority KwaZulu-Natal, the KZN Department of Agriculture and Rural Development certified, they confirmed that 2 wool sheds had been built and paid the supplier 1.27 million rand. Funny story though, there were no wool sheds. Not even foundations of wool sheds. No work had been done at all. But an official certified that the wool sheds had been completed so that the 1.27 million could be paid. An investigation into this nonsense was only completed in 2023, but the official who certified couldn't be disciplined by the department because the official had already resigned. Wasteman. In the Free State, the Premier's office did not create oversight controls for payments for transport. And so the office ended up paying 13 million rand more than they should have for transport. I don't know if the Quantums had gold rims or wings or what. Was it a G-Wagon Quantum? Somebody needs to explain. Wasteman. And all of this happens in national government departments and state-owned enterprises too. Remember I said that sometimes the money wasting is just downright stupid? I'm going to blow your minds here. I wonder if you think these are waste men. So in 2016, something called the Water Sector Education and Training Authority paid a service provider 75 million rand to train 7,000 students. Funny story though, as of today, they cannot confirm that the 75 million rands worth of training took place at all. Wasteman. In 2018, the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, this one's crazy, signed a 5-year contract to lease a depot to store and process tires. But the depot didn't have the required land zoning to store and process tires. But they'd already signed the contract. So the department paid the depot 4 million rand, even though they couldn't put a single tire in the depot. Wasteman. Exactly. Also in 2018, Wasteman. Also in 2018, something called the Water Trading Entity paused construction on Hazelmere Dam because they had not yet got the construction monitoring equipment they needed. The holdup cost, an unnecessary 39 million rand. Wasteman. In 2019, Transnet did not pay their VAT on time. You know they give you ads on TV for like a year to tell you to pay your VAT on time? Transnet was sleeping. A whole Transnet was late on their VAT, and they accrued interest and penalties totaling 64 million unnecessary rands for their late VAT. Wasteman. And I just want to go to that Hazelmere Dam example mess again, because that Hazelmere Dam development example is a perfect case of vital infrastructure projects being derailed. And South Africa has a specific problem with this. In the 2023-2024 financial year, 143 infrastructure projects were audited. These were really important projects. They included for basic education sector, health sector, human settlement sectors. 123 out of the 143 projects, 86% of them were either delayed or cost more than planned or were of too poor quality to be passable when they were finished. The average project delay was 34 months, just under 3 years, the average delay. And of course, all of these delays cost money. And listen, I know all of this is overwhelming. And sadly, all of this is just the tip of the iceberg. And to be honest, it is exhausting. But this is where we, South Africa, we literally the people, need to figure out what to do about all this. Because the thing is, we as a country are genuinely incredibly blessed that our democracy gives the people power to affect governance, right? But that means we actually all need to participate. We need to use the powers that we have. And yes, obviously that means voting. You've heard it a billion times. Obviously, we need to vote out wasteman politicians. But we clearly need to do something else. Do you know what we also desperately need to do? We need to watch these waste men. We need to understand what they are doing. And when they waste our money, we need to tell everyone about it. We need to educate each other. Because the problem is there's too much going on for any of us to read and watch and understand everything all the time. There's too much going on. But that's how the waste men get away with it, people. What they do is hidden behind all of the other news. And then we South Africans, I'm sure you can relate, we get desensitized. We feel hopeless. We stop caring. We stop paying attention. That's how they win. That is how they win and get away with this. So how do we fight this? I have an idea that more and more people are starting to do. What if we all picked one thing the government is doing? Each of us, you watching right now, pick one thing. Just pick one thing, and you're going to obsess over that thing like it's Scissor or Uncle Waffles or Taylor Swift. It could be Taylor Swift fans in the house. It could be your local municipality's budget. It could be your province's Department of Human Settlements. It could be the National Department of Health. It could be Transnet. You pick your niche and you dedicate yourself to being a watcher of that government operation. It could be an individual person. And when something goes wrong, you take action by telling everyone about it. We all know how to do it. The Josie versus Josie Twitter account was a perfect example of that, showing us how the city had degraded through pictures. We all know how to post to Instagram, to make and sign petitions, to make posters and placards. We all know how to demonstrate. We are an elite protest nation, and we should be proud of it. And if you don't want to go outside, go online. Because let's be honest, there's an information war happening, and the rhinos have enough petitions, guys. The rhinos have enough petitions. We know about the rhinos. We're looking after the rhinos. We don't need another rhino petition. We need other petitions, white people. We need other petitions. We need crowdfunding campaigns to pay people to watch the powerful. We need back-a-buddy campaigns for good work NGOs. But most importantly, we need people to get the information out there in ways that we can understand and enjoy, like Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. Because democracy only works if we know what's going on. Wastemen only lose votes when voters know what the wastemen have wasted. If you can dedicate just a few minutes of your week to getting the word out about your niche government obsession, the government won't be able to get away with this insane behavior. And as you share your obsession, other people will share theirs, meaning whenever something goes wrong, we have the information to create the pressure to get the truth out about the wastemen. We can all and should be activist Democrats. We're all Democrats. We need to be activist Democrats with information. We should have Instagram accounts dedicated to talking about PRASA that people can easily understand when there's a PRASA scandal. We should have TikTok pages updating us about what is happening in your province's Department of Health. So when something goes wrong, we know who the wastemen are to get rid of them. And Swifties, if you gave just 1% of the time you spend on Taylor to, for example, the Enoch Mgijima local municipality in the Eastern Cape, then maybe this 15 million rand stadium would never have happened. Look how insane that is. It's a bumpy field and one tiny movable stand. It's a mobile stand for 15 million. That's how we start using our democracy to radically change our country. It's more than voting. It's using learning and spreading information to pressure politicians into acting right. That's how we create consequences for the wastemen and force competence in our government at all levels. That's what real South African patriots do. We fix our own problems. We build our own country. We don't cry wolf to America in Afrikaans. So let's see if we can start a whole new style of movement, of activist Democrats, shall we, using the internet to affect our government. It's so easy. You can do this right now. You can whip out your phone right now, pick a topic, and start building the resources we need. Wouldn't it be so cool if we all did this? Wouldn't it be revolutionary as a start if we all did this? So let's try to do this, because literally like that Josie versus Josie Twitter account, you have the power to cause radical change in this country. We just need to start doing it.